please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
And as we speak, the global markets have opened. The Dow is down about 100 points, so continue to track the global market action weakness there at the start of trading. But the top story this evening, as expected, the Monetary Policy Committee has left the key policy rates unchanged, but with warnings on inflation, crude oil prices, as well as the fiscal deficit. The Reserve Bank has made it clear that it does have its finger on the trigger for a future rate hike. First up, here's how the Monetary Policy Committee voted. Governor Patel and Deputy Governor Viralacharya voted for a status quo, but Executive Director at the Reserve Bank, Michael Patra, voted for a 25 basis point hike in the repo rate. All the three independent members of the committee also voted for a status quo, so it was a 5:1. One member only in favor of a rate hike. In the press conference, Governor Patel underlined the risks to inflation, especially from crude oil prices, and raised the bank's near-term and medium-term forecast. The Reserve Bank has also cut the GDP forecast for this year, but maintained its 7.2 growth forecast for FY19. However, the governor has made it clear that recovery is at a nascent stage and it must be nurtured. The governor took the new fiscal deficit target in his stride. However, he also warned against any further deviations.
Looking ahead, the MPC noted several upside risks to the inflation trajectory. The firming up of international crude oil prices, the hardening of non-oil industrial raw material prices, and stronger pricing power among firms. While inflation will likely move in the range of 5.1 to 5.6% in the first half of the next fiscal year, i.e. 2018-19, favorable base effects, including unwinding of the 7th Central Pay Commission's HRA impact, combined with expectations of normal monsoon and effective food supply management, may see inflation easing to 4.5 to 4.6% in the second half, with risks tilted to the upside.
RBI Governor Patel there. Lata joins us now to take us through her analysis of the Monetary Policy Committee's decision. Lata, what to your mind were the most significant takeaways?
Well, the long and the short of it is that the bond markets have read the monetary policy strictly as not so hawkish. And the main encouragement for them is that the March 2019 end inflation number has been projected by the Reserve Bank at around 4.5 to 4.6%. That's a big relief, because even with that in mind, they are not at the moment hiking rates, and despite the fiscal deficit targets being pushed back, fiscal consolidation timetable being pushed back, the MSP getting structurally perhaps more inflationary, and the trends we are seeing in global commodities, both crude and non-crude, the Reserve Bank has chosen not to change that FY19 inflation number. That is a major relief for the bond markets, which means that although from now to March 2019, there isn't even 4% inflation reading, the Reserve Bank is not hiking rates, which means it is reading its mandate as not 4%, but as 4% plus or minus 2%. It's chosen not to drive home that 4% number too much. That is a big relief, and that is the big takeaway from this monetary policy. Good for bond markets, at least as of now.
Okay, Lata, thanks very much for joining us. Let's go across now to Ashima Goyal, member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Ashima, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. So it's a pause, at least for now, but the upside risks to inflation have been very clearly articulated by the MPC. Now, the question is that things like the impact of the higher MSP as and when it comes into effect, that has not been calculated, and its impact on the fiscal deficit has not been calculated. What would your key concerns be?
No, I think that they have not given enough details on this, but it seems that depending on how you calculate cost, it could be, it need not imply much rise. And in general, when you have a sort of glut in production, prices are soft. And if there is a productivity increase, so it might not materialize in much of an increase in prices. And then it would impact the deficit only far in the future, not very, very currently. And then I think the MPC has this time mentioned that there's a possibility that oil prices could also soften. right? That would bring down inflation in the future. In fact, they see inflation is coming down in the second half.
Well, oil prices, by all indications at this point in time, oil prices, the floor seems to be 60 is what global commodity experts are factoring in at this point in time, Ashima. But, what does this then tell you in terms of the possibility of continuing to stay in pause mode or having to, in fact, move higher as far as rates are concerned? Do you believe that that threat is less imminent now?
Yes, I think the guidance indicates that very quick hikes are less likely now. Pause seems more likely, extended pause.
Okay. In terms of growth, the GVA for FY18 revised just a tad lower to 6.6% versus 6.7%, and for FY19 between 7.1 and 7.2%. And, the Reserve Bank talks about the need to continue to nurture growth. It talks about the recovery being very nascent. What's your own sense on the green shoots that we're currently witnessing and whether the momentum is likely to pick up?
Yes, I think there definitely are green shoots. What is particularly heartening is you're seeing double-digit growth in steel and cement for the last couple of months, the core industry growth data, which suggests that maybe housing, low-income housing, there's been several boosts given to that. And that is also creates jobs. So, and in general, because export demand should pick up with high global growth, that high global growth is normally really helps our exports grow. So all these, and then because we are seeing some higher inflation is bringing real rates down, that should help consumption growth also. Yeah.
So let me end then by asking you, Ashima, was the commentary from the MPC less hawkish than you anticipated or in line with your expectations?
I think it was less hawkish, and therefore, in particular, I like that they mentioned, or maybe it was in the later interaction, that the fiscal deficit, the small deviation from the earlier path, is not really a major risk because things have changed in the economy. Okay. And we should be able to absorb a slightly higher fiscal deficit without it being inflationary.
Okay. Yes, the red flag was not raised on the deviation on the fiscal. Ashima Goel, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18, member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Dalal Street, bank stocks slipped in trade today, and that's largely because starting April, the interest rates on loans given out by banks will be linked to the marginal cost of funds based lending system, or the MCLR. Now, the Reserve Bank believes that this move will result in better transmission of the benefits of its previous rate cuts to customers overall. It was another volatile session for our markets. The Nifty opening above 10,600 saw selling pressure from the first tick. The index saw a steep slide in the last hour of trade and closed with a 20-point cut. The Sensex opened above 34,300 but ended more than 110 points lower. Mid-caps bucked the trend. The index closed with gains of about 0.2%. And a quick check of the action on Wall Street, because remember, our markets are tracking what's happening globally. The Dow opened 100 points lower, but it has recovered 100 points already. That tells you how volatile things are. So it's a green tick on the S&P 500, flat at the moment, wild swings on Wall Street on opening bell. Up next, the Supreme Court cancels all iron ore mining leases in Goa and has some terse words for both the state government and mining companies. Details when we return. Well, from partition to bad loans, from Sardar Patel to Jawaharlal Nehru, the Prime Minister ripping into the Congress party in what was a terse speech in Parliament, blaming the Congress for dividing the country, and went on to say that the nation is still paying for sins committed by the Congress not taking it lying down. Rahul Gandhi accusing the Prime Minister of corruption in the Rafael jet deal today. He questioned why the Prime Minister did not answer questions on the Rafael deal. Here's the war of words between the Prime Minister and Rahul Gandhi.
आपके चरित्र में है, जब भारत का विभाजन किया आपने, देश के टुकड़े किए, और जो जहर बोया, आज आजादी के 70 साल के बाद एक दिन ऐसा नहीं जाता है कि आपके उस पाप की सजा 125 करोड़ हिंदुस्तानी न भुगत। अब समय आ गया है कि देश के सामने सत्य आना चाहिए। ये एनपीए आपका पाप था। आज मैं देश के सामने पहली बार ये जानकारियां दे रहा हूं। 18 लाख से 52 लाख, 18 लाख करोड़ से 52 लाख करोड़ लुटा दिया आपने। और आज जो पैसे बढ़ रहे हैं वो उस समय के आपके पाप का ब्याज है। ये हमारी सरकार ने दिए हुए पैसे नहीं।
प्रधानमंत्री जी से हमने 3 सवाल पूछे हैं। आज 1 घंटे से ज्यादा बोले। राफेल डील पे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने एक शब्द नहीं कहा। राजनीतिक भाषण किया, कैंपेन स्पीच करी, मगर जो देश के सामने मुद्दे हैं, रोजगार का मुद्दा, उसके बारे में प्रधानमंत्री ने कुछ नहीं कहा।
Words in Parliament, the Defence Ministry has issued a statement rejecting the allegations made by Rahul Gandhi, calling them unfounded, but it has refused to reveal the price that India will pay for the Rafael deal. The ministry has said that more information and item-wise cost will reveal customization and weapon system details. According to the Defence Ministry, further details would also breach confidentiality provisions of a bilateral India-France agreement of 2008 signed by the UPA government. Well, in a big legal setback for miners in Goa, the Supreme Court has cancelled 88 leases that were renewed in 2015. The licenses were renewed by the state government just before the Mines and Minerals Act mandated the auction of mining leases. This means that all mining activity in the state will come to a standstill on the 16th of March. The top court did not only cancel the lease renewals, it also came down heavily on the miners and the state government. Ashmit joins us now with more. Ashmit, what did the court have to say and who is going to be impacted by this?
Well, the choice of words, again, very critical here. Justice Lokul, not mincing words at all, putting it out as in as many words, that there has been a rapacious and a rampant exploitation, and that is the hallmark of the Indian mining industry, that the sole motive of the miners appears to be to make profits at any cost, no matter how, and that the laxity and the sheer apathy, this being an indication towards the government, the laxity and the sheer apathy giving a field day to miners. Now, that's the tone and the tenor of the Supreme Court judgment. Of course, as you rightly pointed out, the issue appears to have been the renewal of these mining leases, 88 of them to be specific, just before the MMDR came into being. MMDR, of course, made it mandatory for there to be an auction-based process for disposal of these natural resources. Nonetheless, those concerns were highmost on the minds of the Supreme Court judges. They've quashed those mining lease renewals, given a few days till March 15 to be specific for the miners to wind up their operations. And as to their impact, well, Vedanta appears to have exposure to these iron ore mines in Goa and stands to be affected the most amongst the listed players.
All right, appreciate you joining us, Ashmit. With that, we are out of time here on What's Hot, but before we wrap, the biggest auto show in the country has kicked off in the capital. Here's one of the star attractions at the event, a new SUV concept launched by Tata Motors. Take a look and thanks for watching. We'll see you in 30.
Well, you're joining us at the Auto Expo 2018. And all the action, all the excitement seems to be centered around the Tata Pavilion, and that behind me is the reason for it. So that's the new concept, H5X by Tata Motors. Now, we know that it's based on the Freelander's L550 platform, but it's absolutely stunning to look at. I mean, this is a car, and there's so many launches and concepts that you see. Now, we've seen it with the Nexon when they launched the Nexon, or at least showed the Nexon. The prototype looked really good, and people wondered if they would actually be able to get that design into production, and they did. And just take a look at this H5X concept. It's absolutely stunning to look at. Nothing like the Freelander that it's based on. So now Tata Motors tells us that there will be a localization of parts, and obviously it will be more suited to the Indian environment and Indian roads and Indian conditions. But in terms of looks, just now if you notice at the little things, the rims that you see there are actually 22-inch alloy wheels. Now, the platform supposedly is designed in a way where this is the largest size of rim that it can accommodate, but they look absolutely stunning. 265 section tires. Now, if you notice in the back here, so you can actually, that's a push tray back there. So once you push it out, there's actually a hover board inside there. The side footboards that you see, they actually extend to give you more, to allow you to step inside nicely. Well sculpted lines, absolutely proportionate design, really good looking. Now we cannot get close to the car and actually show you the interior, and also this is a prototype, so there's a lot of things that might not finally come into the production stage, but in terms of the way it looks right now and how the body panels have been crafted and the attention to detail looks absolutely gorgeous. The cuts at the back, just the silhouette that every line cuts, I think in terms of a design job, and which is all that we can see right now, the H5X looks absolutely wonderful. What powertrains it's going to have, how it's going to eventually drive, that we'll obviously know once there is a production version of this car. But what we see so far looks really, really good.